Hi, everybody, and welcome to our first Lowdown on Low Code of 2025. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Rob Koplowitz. I'm one of your hosts here on Lowdown on Low Code, and I'm here with Francis Carden, another one of our regular hosts. How are you, Francis? How was your New Year's?
Oh, it's good. Good. It's just can't believe we started another year over. So yeah, had all good. Happy New Year to everybody.
They just keep rolling on. Hey, folks, this is a really cool episode that we have today. And I just want to give a tiny little recap really quickly of how 2025 went. One of the things that was really great about Lowdown on Low Code in 2025 was we had great folks from the vendor side who were willing to come on and talk to us about their value proposition. So, we had, we were lucky enough to have Senior Vice President of Strategy, Malcolm Ross from Appian, Mendix Chief Growth Officer, Nick Ford, Betty Block CEO, Chris Obdam, Work Relay CEO, Kramer Reeves, CEO and founder of Camunda, Jacob Frond. Wow, this is really cool. I don't know if I've looked at all at one place at one time. Rudy Kuhn, Chief Transformation Evangelist from Celonis. We had
It's a busy year.
it was busy. Wait, we're not even close to finished. John Sherman, the Chief Technology Officer of Pega. Gustavo Gomez, the CEO and founder of Bizaji. Ed Jennings, the CEO of QuickBase. Paula Rosado, the CEO and founder of OutSystems. We had Jithan Bhaskar, the GM of low code business at ServiceNow. We had Scott Francis, founder and board member at BP3. We had Ultimus, chairman and CEO, Lee Michael. We had a Kissflow, Suresh Samandam. We had Himanshu Arora from Rhino .ai, a very cool company. Ravish Diwan, CEO of Jogit. Who am I missing? We had we had a fellow by the name of Alan Treffler, the CEO and founder of Pegasystems. Automation Anywhere. We had Prince Coley, and I'm missing a couple. We closed out the year with Naranjan Vijay Raghavan, the Chief Product Officer of Nintex. I think I've missed somebody here on the way, but to me, I think that feels like the who's who of kind of, the low code business. And then today, what we've got, this one feels almost stalkerish. So we've been pursuing this guest for a
We've
long
got him
time,
now.
and we finally landed him. And a great kickoff for 2025 here. Each of these firms that we have, I think, have unique value proposition, but this firm, I think, has a particularly unique value proposition at this moment in time. And we're going to get to dig into that today. So today's guest, welcome Vijay Tella, CEO and founder of Workado. How are you,
Well,
Vijay?
very good, Rob. It's good to see you again. And Francis, good to meet you.
Likewise, my friend. Likewise.
So, Vijay, we have a way of starting these things off, and it's pretty consistent because the stories of how people got into the industry and into the automation space is always really fascinating. So, what led you here? How did you end up in this whole tech thing?
Yeah. So I think the tech thing started, right out of school. But I started out in, the opposite end of the low code movement. I was one of the founders of a company called TIBCO, where we, created some of the first integration technologies. But then, over a long arch where we overlapped at Oracle, where I got helped get the Fusion middleware product line going there. I think I think it was the time I spent in the consumer space. I took 6 or 7 years to be, it was in a consumer company called QIK. It was a live video streaming company that became part of Skype. But that experience really rewired my thinking around how software should be. It should run like a utility. It's always on. it should be compelling, it should be inspiring, it should be accessible. And so when I got out of that, when Skype acquired that company and I took some time off, I think my sort of the background in the integration automation space and the consumer experience sort of came together, and even some of the people, they were very different sets of people and cultures, came together to for that was sort of the genesis for the vision behind Workado.
That's cool. Hey, over to you, Francis.
Yeah, so quick intro from me, Vijay. So I started like you out of school in the tech many years before you, I guess. It's kind of like accidentally. I started into accidentally getting into programming and thinking this is harder than it should be.
Yeah.
So used to write lots of utilities to make things easier, and then entered the 4GL world. I don't know if you remember in the early days there was fourth generation languages. And then got involved just for the rest of my really main career in automation. Automation, though, of something else, of someone else's systems or what someone else had built, but making it more efficient, making it faster. That just happened to be what I was, I guess, destined for. And then I started an RPA company before it was even called RPA. We grew that very successfully, raised a lot of funds, and sold that to Pega in 2016. And so then for 7 or 8 years, spent my life there, just getting entrenched into everything connected to the low-code world, automation continuum, but also reimagining processes, reimagining the very systems that we kept automating, same old, right? And so from my perspective, where we're at today, we've really reached a plateau where some of the older technologies really, which were before their time, 4GLs, low code, etc., we were constrained by the technologies, right, of past, of historic, fat clients and choosing hardware and operating systems. Whereas today, all of that is almost so easy. It's just a click of a button, right? And so if we look to the future and we look to where you guys are at and what you're doing in this space, what would be an ideal client for you? What would that ideal prospect look like? And if you prefer, do it the opposite. What clients or prospects do you not like so much? Because everybody is claiming to be low code, no code, this, that, and the other. So we'd love to hear your perspective here.
Yeah, I think the one of the biggest, I think, sort of criteria, if you will, is having more of a growth mindset, wanting to create positive change, and be not afraid to change things so you can do things better, right? There's different mentality, right? There's one approach which is, I think, far too dominant, which is look at what you're already doing and automate that, in a bot or something, right? That's going to make things efficient, but you're also cementing how things are always done. I think the other way of thinking about it is more of a systems thinking, rethinking, a big picture. And when you do that, some of the things that you're trying to optimize may not even need to be done. I think I think, companies and people, especially within these companies, with this growth mindset and systems thinking, and they exist everywhere in every, every kind of company. I think those are the folks that we love to partner with.
It's interesting you say that, because I use a term, it's my own term. I mean, I'll stick with it. I call it the digital revolution. You call it the rethinking. Get people to rethink and imagine the big picture. Because if you keep looking at the as is, it's amazing. And you just stay there. It's just, and you wouldn't do today if you was start out building quote unquote an automation or a digital process, whatever it is. You just wouldn't do it the way we did it in the past. So just keep rewrapping, wrapping that stuff. It's just like regifting, we should call it, right? And now we've just gone through Christmas. There's a few of those out there, I'm sure. So Rob, over to you.
So Vijay, so I've obviously, I covered Workato for a long time, in my time at Forrester, and we've gotten, close to you again since analysis.tech. And in my mind, there's always been sort of this interesting aspect of Workato, right? There's the classic applications that we've built, line of business application type of things that we buy, right? And we're going to talk about Satya's comments and dig into that here in just a little bit. But But there's also been this other class of applications which span legacy applications, right? They're processes that run across organizational boundaries. They run across legacy system boundaries. That's always been a special place where Workato has lived really effectively, right? In defining these new types of classes of applications. You're really good at integration. Your recipes began to identify instances where things were happening in a repetitive way. So why can't we make that easier? And now enter AI, right? So we've got these sort of three things. I started kind of by saying, Workato's a really interesting client. We've really been excited to have you on. Between sort of the focus on integration, which I think is, which is very unique to you, the early focus on switching that from kind of integration to workflow and process optimization, and now we've got the entrance of AI. Where is this going to take us? Maybe let's start in the short term.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, we've always had this view that, when a company is defined by a set of its processes, right? Like how it harnesses its people, applications, technology experience, and and how it's different from a competitor is, how does it do it better? How adaptable is it, and all of that, right? It's so process is a centerpiece, but a process is got different dimensions to it, right? There's a data dimension to it, which is and historically you kind of like looked at data integration as a separate problem than process automation, and that's yet another category than experience, unified or cohesive experience. So one of the ideas behind starting Workado was refactoring all these things. Like we call these meta flows that describe how a company works. They have these dimensions: data, workflow, and experience. And being able to think all of them up holistically is what is how that's what recipes are about, right? Now, when with AI, you're able to really have the expertise to create some new ideas and plans for how you can do something better, but you then would need to orchestrate all of that across all of your systems. You need sort of the transactional context around a customer, like their billing information, their support information, the product usage information. You got to have all of this in order for the agents or LLMs to make the right decision, and then you need to be able to orchestrate acting across all these things. So the way to think about it is integration is sort of the rubber meets the road plumbing for connecting to everything, and orchestration is how you bring all of these different dimensions, data, process, and experience dimensions, in a cohesive way. And it sort of the execution power of orchestration sort of matches up with the generative power of AI to kind of be able to take these new plans and implement them across your company.
Interesting. Francis, let's go over to you. Let's stretch out into the future a little bit.
Yeah, just before we do that, I just want to just pick up on some of the things you said. So I think about this, the low code, whatever it's called, the model, right? And so always part of a decent application model is to break everything down into the sum of all the parts, but the key parts, right? And integration, APIs, and integration even in-house has been an issue for years, right? The enterprise service bus came alive because it was a way to catalog, apparently, all the crap that was stored internally to try to sort of join it together. What you guys are doing is actually much more special, I think, right? Is that you are taking that on more holistically, so system to system, internally and externally, and providing the ability for people to not never have to think about that integration layer, and then can focus on the business, the user side, what they need to get done, right, knowing that someone's got their back. Have I got that right?
No, 100%. So what happens is you can imagine workflows and reimagine workflows, but to make those happen, if you have to do major projects to do the connect to systems and wrangle all the data and transform things, that's where things get stuck. So I think one of the things that we felt fundamentally needed to happen was having a low code, super democratic approach to the plumbing or the integration, so that you can do this processes and workflows at a high scale, right? Because the sort of the slow leg of the chain is the plumbing. And I think, making that easier is really critical to doing everything, to kind of doing all the vision above that, including how you apply AI into it.
Yeah, so hey, I hate to bust in here, Francis. I know you've got more to go, but I've brought this up a number of times. So I used to do waves on digital process automation and low code, and we used to ask people where are you dropping into code, and we would we'd have these extensive surveys that we would go out and talk to the vendor customers directly, and the consistent thing was integration. Every single, you would just fly down that column in Excel, and coding was always done around integration. It's just a harder problem than most people anticipate, and generally not that incredibly well done by your classic low code vendors.
Well, it's not just
sorry to interrupt, Francis.
Yeah, no, it's all right. It's not just integration between system to system. I mean, integration applies at the UI layer. You've got to integrate some unbeknownst, what was fat client, thin client, no client, I mean, mobile. That's integration. And things need to resonate and present themselves in different ways based upon the level. So integration actually has been like the heart of computing since the beginning. And orchestration is, everybody that knows me knows I'm so passionate, Vijay, about low code, right? I started my career on it. I'm ending my career, and I'll probably die. Probably be on my gravestone. Right herein lies the last piece of code with Francis. Right. And you mentioned orchestration. I always think I've been a bit brutal with people. I've like, if you don't orchestrate your work, you really don't have a plan. I mean, it's like throwing darts at a dartboard, And I'm going to use one more analogy for you before I'll ask my question and hand back to Rob, which is that in the plumbing world, there has actually been some pretty amazing innovation with a thing called shark bite. Anybody not in the plumbing world, and I'm not really, but I use these things called shark bites, which allows you to join two pieces of copper together without ever having to solder. Right. And you can unjoin them again as well. Right. So it's truly coupling and decoupling, which is really where we've been trying to get to for decades. And plumbing's been around since before any code. So, I thought that was quite interesting. So listen, so we talked a little bit about this. And so as we move and discuss, what you guys are doing at Workato, but the area around how we make a decision of buying versus building, because technologists, and there's less and less of these deep technologists, I think, today as they retire and so forth. There's not many COBOL developers left, but they used to love coding these integrations. They don't want someone else doing it for them because we're special, we're unique, we're the only one that does it this way. So where are you on this build versus buy, and how do you kind of not shut that down, but be a little bit empathetic to lead them into the Workato way?
100%. No, I think it's really important to support both the heavy lift type use cases, right? Where these are things that typically IT owns for a good reason. There's a lot of governance issues. There's performance, transactionality, all of these requirements that some of the big projects, like how you do your order to cash, ends up in the IT's lap. But IT does not love complexity or like taking a year to do that job either. They also, there's this myth that somehow the less technical people want it to do easier, and IT loves to do more complex things. That's not been my experience. I think folks in IT, enterprise architects, they want modernity, they want simplicity, they want speed, they want the power. So I think it's not an either or. I think it's really important to be able to support those heavy lift use cases. At the same time, have the broader set of folks in the company be able to like in their marketing ops and sales ops and employee experience, be able to take their ideas and bring them to life on their own, right? With the guardrails that have been there for, that have been set up for them around, privacy and security. So these things are, I think I think both are essential.
It's a wonderful time because I can remember, I'm not sure it's always been like that. I can remember probably 2 decades ago, somebody saying to me, Francis, we don't want $1 million solution to a $20 million problem.
Yeah.
They were quite happy to spend the money on the IT side. But what has changed, I think as people have moved on and the technologies have shifted underneath, groundbreaking technologies, it's opened up the door and the idea that we can get this done securely, governed, safely, but really progress what we want to do. Rob, back to you.
Hey, folks, just a quick timeout here to talk about your sponsor for Lowdown on Low Code, which is analysis.tech. If you're passionate about low code, if you're passionate about digital process automation, if you want to engage more with myself, with Francis Carden, the godfather of RPA, with John Reimer, the fellow who coined the term low code, Ryan Duguid, former chief product officer at Nintex, and QuickBase, Dave Marcus, long fabulous history with K2 and UiPath. Andy Bartels, former chief economist of Forrester, and our newest addition, Rick Greenwald, who used to be one of the main data folks over at Gartner. He used to do the data MQs, has recently joined us, so we can get more deep into data. If you want to engage with any of us, you can find us at analysis.tech. Vijay, we talked about orchestration, and kind of when I think about orchestration, in my mind, I think about modeling. I think about I think about workflow type orchestration, kind of a classic thing. Is that one of the many things that's up for up for disruption, or are we going to still be dependent upon modeling and state management and classic orchestration, kind of in the BPMN spirit of things?
Yeah, I think first of all, I think it's a low orchestration. I think is it's a lot. It's a bit broader in scope than I think I think historically we've applied the term. It's orchestrating all of your at the data process and experience. Like I said, it's about experience as well, right? Not just about workflows.
Mhm.
And it's all these different use cases, right? There are use cases that are more like analytics and bulk data oriented, right? There's use cases that are more API oriented, orchestrating APIs. There's data orchestration. There's unified experience. So I think it's and being able to have this be done by both pro code experts to the low code folks, right? So it's a more holistic approach to harnessing everything in your company, right? Like and being able to change, take your new ideas and bring them to life. So I think it is essentially, I think it is got the full execution power of of a programming language, but in a low code accessible way, right?
Francis.
Yeah, I like the way you talk about orchestration and workflow, because it is more than just orchestrating. When I said it's about orchestrating work, I mean it from the customer journey perspective. We all got experience as I got older. I'm having to get some pensions paid in that belong to these legacy companies that are 30, 40 years old. I started paying into some of these pension things, and the customer experience on orchestration is almost non-existent. It's like, we don't know. And we don't know why things go wrong either. It's like it gets escalated to the nth degree. But here is an opportunity for AI, right? And I absolutely see AI elevating a lot of what we've been talking about, these new technologies, reimagining the processes, reimagining the way work gets done to make better experiences time and time again for the customer without significant increases in costs on the development side. But there is risk associated with that. So the question we had for you is how would you advise clients on this AI power and how it's used responsibly without introducing that risk? Where does that apply to Workato?
Yeah, I think it's a really great question. I think AI is sort of applicable to like so many use cases wall to wall in a company, and some of them have extremely high bar on fidelity, accuracy, and so on. And there's others sort of maybe as like in finance or like people related, and then there's others like maybe in sales and marketing where if you are like correct 90% of the time, you're happy with that, right? So first of all, there's like nuances on there's different requirements, so there's different rates of adoptions of AI. But there are two dimensions of like that around safe application of AI, right? One is just the security and privacy. You have agents that are able to like access all this system, take actions. It's really important that if you have these co-pilots and agents, they cannot do what, like if you have an agent that's supporting customer support, customer support agent should not be able to do what the human agent is not able to do, right? I think the security and privacy is really important. But the other part of it is what, AI can generate very detailed like instructions on how to get something done. But um, uh, do you really need to have it generate instructions for how to kind of like how to connect to Salesforce, for example? What I mean is that I believe this concept of AI skills is really important. Skills are these things that are more deterministic, that you would develop to perform some common tasks in a very reliable way, and the dynamism of AI would be in how it's orchestrating these skills, right? You don't need to generate the code for these skills all the time. What you have to do is to generate the skills for orchestrating these skills. So I think there is the this the concept of skills and this security and privacy are the two of the big areas where you have to. I think those are the two big levers to get more determinism and confidence in your AI solutions.
I like again the way you position that. I think that there's also another element to this, Rob, as well. Using AI to determine the what and the why now, right? Because just understanding what we do doesn't, and that's a big issue. Most organizations don't understand 90% of what actually is going on behind the scenes because it was been built over the last X many years.
Right.
So I think AI can really help with that. But that doesn't mean to say, oh, let's go and automate and optimize the as is. It's
Right.
then using it to say, what should this look like in an ideal world? And you're right. The risks, hallucinations matter when it matters. It less so when somebody tries to sell me an Android when I'm an Apple guy. It doesn't upset me.
Yeah.
But it might do if they refuse me a loan because they made some assumption that was just inaccurate.
Even if a chatbot at Air Canada gives everybody a discount, I can survive that, right? But there are areas where where deterministic versus probabilistic really matters. So one more question before we close out, Vijay. Is this an area where Workato is going to invest in providing me some governance and guardrails to understand where a developer might get themselves into trouble?
100%. I think we launched our agentic platform like every other company on the planet, or software company on the planet. But I think the core reason why we are so excited about it, and it's a huge area of focus for us, is that I think the first of all, at a big picture level, 10,000-foot level, the generative power of AI needs to be matched up with the execution power of it, like a general purpose orchestration, capability, number one. But the other part of it, the architecture of these AI solutions, I think, built-in security governance, and we call, there's for example, we have this thing called verified user connection. Every action an agent takes, it acts as the person that the agent is supporting, right? So it cannot do it can only do what the role is allowed to do, right? So that type of capability. But then the recipes, in our world that we've been working on for the last 10 years, becomes sort of the building blocks of the skills. These are vetted approaches to doing some common things, right? Your order execution, your steps of your employee onboarding, background checks, in your hiring or whatever, right? These are like these are proven, like these are things you depend upon. So having these skills or as building blocks for AI to then apply its dynamism and creativity and rethink the larger process. So we are we're our agentic vision is entirely tied to sort of making so sort of predict having agentic solutions that you can trust and deploy, and just have some level of control over how the rubber meets the road in your company, right?
Love it.
Love it. Love it. I mean, look, you guys have been at this for a while, right? I mean, we can go back to, TIBCO and Oracle and all the other places you've been, but this diligent approach to how applications need to be built, how IT solutions need to be implemented, and how this stuff matters in the way processes is among the unique perspectives that I think, Workato brings. You do come to this kind of whole kind of low code process optimization thing from a little different direction, and I think a really interesting one. And that was really what we wanted to bring to our listeners today. So listen, everybody, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. We always so much appreciate you and listening to Vijay's story around Workato. If you like what you're hearing, hit the like button, hit the share button. There's a lot of like-minded people that seem to get value from our little podcast here, and we are so appreciative of you coming and spending your time with us. Vijay, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Vijay. This is going to be exciting 2025.
Yeah. Thank you, Francis and Rob, for having me, and have a wonderful 25. Thank you.
Yeah.